Hey guys, welcome to Thor, aka the House of R.E.P, my podcast with my team, the R.E.P Knights, where we talk about movies, gaming, and more. In this episode, we're going to be talking about an anime. It's a popular classic movie of a very popular video game franchise. That's right, we'll be talking about Street Fighter 2, the animated movie. Stay tuned for another great episode of the House of R.E.P. And we're back. So I'm joined by Z. Z, say hi there, everyone.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the House of R.E.P. Make sure you share and sub our channel. We're going to be talking about a really cool film today.
Cool. To start off, let's talk about the plot. So Street Fighter 2 the anime is an adaptation of the popular fighting game of the same name. The movie centers around the Street Fighter tournament where fighters from around the world compete to be crowned the world champion. But there's a twist. The villainous M. Bison and his criminal organization T.H.O.R have taken an interest in the tournament and using it as a way to recruit new members. So, I remember the first time we saw this film, it blew me away. Shadow dark fight in the field that Ryu has with Sagat while the android's scanning and, getting the readings for Ryu and Sagat's fighting style is amazing.
Yeah, it's interesting how they use the android as a kind of prefix for the audience's perspective in the fight. You're not like a bystander. The android is the bystander watching the fight of Ryu and Sagat in the rain, in the darkness, having that I thought it was pretty bloody the first time round because sometimes they used to censor the blood coming out of his scar because it predates how Sagat got his massive scar on his chest.
Yeah, how he was defeated because he's a... what do they call the Shadow Law people who are like Bison's generals? They're just like his generals?
Generals, I say, yeah.
But they have a special
he's like
name.
a Muay Thai guy, isn't he?
Yeah, he's like a champion. So after he gets defeated by Ryu, Adon takes his crown because he's like no longer as strong as he felt he was.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a special type of sort of like bladed shuriken he does. Like he does it with such might that it ends up hurting thing, and then he gets defeated by a Hadouken. I mean, just the whole quality of that scene. Now the thing is, the cinematic score that they've put on the Western version of the film, the crescendo and the kind of the scoring of that's sort of like layered with really amazing alternative music, like metal and grunge on it, and this is the first time that I ever heard some of my staple bands now that are my favorites over the years, like Alice in Chains, Silverchair, and a few people like that, like Korn, Korn and stuff. So this was an amazing soundtrack for us, and it just is forever memorable. The other amazing thing is that Richard Epcar plays E Honda in the movie, so it's amazing for me to be able to work with one of my heroes. I'll talk to Richard, see if he can do so.
Hey girlfriend, why don't you throw more punches? Might break a nail, huh? Wooga wooga wooga. Why?
What are you accusing me of? Sloughing off?
Just kidding. Gosh, you're so sensitive.
Here, keep it. Japanese fighters stick together. 'Cause we're brothers!
One of my favorite scenes is Cammy's really brief cameo where she takes out the Prime Minister. Well, he's called the President in that, know? So she's kind of like under Shadowloo's control, and she does that kind of twisty neck-breaking kind of move, which they've now added to Street Fighter 6 as like a homage to that. So I'm quite excited to try that move. But Cammy's been always one of my staple go-to characters. I just absolutely, love everything about her style and fighting style, and her whole background as a Bison doll and having to escape that. And I do want to explore that in a show, and I would like to do that because her team, the team that she was with before she got captured, are quite cool as well, and like doing a show about that would be really, really, really cool. Yeah, so it's really good. So tell me your thoughts on this whole thing, the whole film and stuff.
Yeah, I mean the star sequence is epic. It's really nice how you kind of go from the star sequence where he does the Hadouken, and the effects are really nice of the lightning effect. I think this is like a really nice representation which they adopted in later games with the whole, how the lightning gets absorbed by Ryu into the chi of the Hadouken, and then he fires the Hadouken. In games like Alpha, the Hadouken was a lot smaller, and in the older games it looks smaller unless you did a massively fireball Hadouken.
So, like in Street Fighter 1, it was a bit different. Street Fighter 2, it was like a traditional fireball. Like, like a sprite fireball.
Yeah.
That traditional fireball was changed in the Alpha series, so it felt more like a kind of looked like a kind of like a torpedo looking kind of chi blast. Then in Street Fighter Alpha 2, they consciously separated the two Hadoukens. So Ryu's Hadouken, it looks more powerful. Ken's Hadouken looks faster, like it looks more like Street Fighter 2.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like a throwback
it
to
nicely goes into the title sequence, and the title sequence is really brief. It shows the Street Fighter logo, and it specifically says like Street Fighter 2, the animated movie, so it's not to be confused with the live action film or anything like that. And it's got a really nice style, and then I think it goes into the plane scene or something.
But one of the most notable aspects about Street Fighter 2, the anime movie, is this incredible animation. The movie was released in 94, so 1994, and the animation still holds up today. You could literally put a Blu-ray in or a DVD and it still is very watchable. And the fight scenes are beautifully choreographed. They've planned them out really well, for anime. So they've thought of the scenes really well, what's happening in them. Like the Vega Chun-Li, like when he ambushes her in her flat, that's a great fight, and all those elements are really good. Even the end battle, various battles within the actual show, no matter how brief they are exceptionally good and well made. Fei Long's fight against Ryu is wicked too. Each one has a really good kind of storyline.
The thing is, the thing I like about this film is that it does the right formula for a fighting video game based film, where the fights have to take front and center. It's not the story is woven around the fights. So it's not about too much story or too much dialogue or too much like the villain's narrative or the hero's narrative.
Tonally it's really balanced.
It has a lovely balance, this
each
film.
act kind of poetically goes from one to the next, and that's what was really good. This was really one of my first major experiences with the anime, and then after that I was hooked to manga, and that kind of brought me into the world of Guyver, Fist of the North Star, and other staple shows that I really love, like Pat Label, Police, Maybe, and stuff. So Ghost in the Shell. It really kind of started that kind of wave of stuff, and that's why I've always loved anime, and I want to dabble in anime as a filmmaker as well, because I just love the medium. To me, animation is just as important as live action. It's just another form of expression. And what's really good is some of the more fantastical elements sometimes don't fully translate well in live action if you don't do them correctly. Like, for instance, the Steve D'Souza film is completely like in an AU where like things are a little bit more grounded in real world, whereas this can, with the chi energies, do some stuff more fantastical. So like, the fire kicks from Fei Long, the Tatsumaki, defying gravity, doing hurricane kick, shurikens, all these kind of special moves are, and Bison Psycho Power, and like a lot of the things that are in it, are very good, like very well done. Like the way they showcase the moves, they really bring the characters to life.
In this film how they show Bison. He's very demanding. He's very like over the top. He's not an over the top villain, but he's a very cool looking villain in this, because he's got the massive chin, he's got the white eyes, he's got his whole costume, he's got that massive cape.
His design in this, is what inspired his redesign in Alpha. Because Alpha came out after this, so he was a lot more skinnier and more lean, and then they explained that away in canon as that being a deteriorating body, which is why he lost. And so his later body, it was after, I think he went to go see Rose, or gets some more power, or he met Rose before before he was a general.
Right.
But the canon is a little bit kind of up and down. There's some elements that I forget, but I do know that this is his second body. The one
Okay.
where he's a bit more burly and looking.
Yeah,
So his
yeah,
scientists have been
yeah.
working on basically perfecting his body and making it be able to contain
Yeah.
the psycho power because it's too powerful sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, another worthwhile thing is to talk about the overall composition of the soundtrack. So, you know, it deserves a lot of praise for featuring a score that was composed by Yoko Shimomura. So he's a very good composer, and he did all the the Japanese soundtrack, and I've mostly listened to the Western one with all the kind of like the rock music and all those things, so my mind is ingrained with it. But occasionally I've seen the original
I
score,
noticed
and they're
that
both good.
whoever composed the Western version of the soundtrack took a lot of influences from Thai music, Far East Asian music.
Yeah.
Because I particularly remember the scene where Bison's coming in his jet, and you see that massive Buddha head.
Yeah, and it
kind of
has-
gets split into
yeah, it
two
gets a
as
split in
it's
headache.
this massive hanger. a
His
shadowy
jet is quite
pad.
cool as well. He has
Yeah.
that kind of VTOL looking.
It's like a early
stealth-
version of a Avengers VTOL.
Yeah, it's
it looks
quite
like.
it's quite cool. He has almost like it looks kind of like a fixed wing VTOL plane.
Yeah.
But with a
Or
massive
aircraft.
lower area with like a hangar lab area and
Yeah.
stuff and things. His fight with Ken is quite good as well on the plane when they have a bit of a fight and then Ken loses to him. He
We'll talk
reverses
about that
the
later. That's a
Hadouken.
bit later in the film.
Yeah.
But I like the whole entrance of Bison with his generals. So he's walking with Sagat,
Yeah, they look quite mean.
Vega, and Balrog, and then they go talk to that professor dude, that little professor
he's
dude,
like
the scientist.
He's like a new character.
So what does he say to that
He's
guy?
just talking about his second generation androids that he made that are better at surveillance. They're much
Yeah.
better than the surveillance droids that they made, and he says that they're already been deployed and they're finding candidates and things like that. So it's really good. It's like a nice it's a nice structure.
Where's the bit where she goes to meet Guile for the first time?
She goes to see him at an Air Force base, and then he's coming out of a jet, and then he tells her that Bison's ass is his, and
Oh yeah,
like
He's like,
pisses
"Huh?"
her off and stuff like that.
The
Chun-Li.
classic anime style.
Yeah, so she gets really mad at him and stuff. So it's quite cool.
Hey, brushhead,
This was not a request.
This was not a request.
Yeah, so I like the I like that. It's just really cool.
And the thing is that a lot of this film has a lot of popular voice actors under pseudonyms. So the majority of voice actors that you may have heard of nowadays, maybe like Fred Tassachor, Steve Bloom, and Richard Epcar, and people like that, they've worked on this film under crazy pseudonym names. So they have worked on this project and this film, but we wouldn't know about it because within the casting, if you look at the credits, it's just under a pseudonym or a fake stage name. So
Yeah,
that's
because I
quite
talked to
funny.
Richard Epcar. He said that he did E Honda, even though
Yeah,
it's like credited under a pseudonym.
yeah.
It's
So
like
that's
Patrick
a
Gilbert,
little,
whoever
that's a
that
little
is.
trivia for you guys,
Yeah.
for the audience there, that some people may not know.
There's
about
a lot
Street
of cuts
Fighter.
of the film too. Let's touch on the cuts because
Okay, let's touch on the cuts.
I have a DVD of the film. I had a VHS of the film, so this is
the
time
original
ago.
VHS
Yeah?
version.
So video home system. Yeah, had a tape of the film. Really badly got degraded. Like we touched on Mortal Kombat as well. There are two films that got degraded by so many reviews, and stuff.
Yeah.
And after that, I had a DVD, and the DVD was a great digital transfer of that dub.
Okay.
K's have made a Blu-ray that I had. I need to get another Blu-ray now. There's a newer Blu-ray, but I have a Blu-ray from K's. K's released another Blu-ray, and they cut it. It put the PG-13 dub on it. So some of the lines, like the F words and stuff like that Guile says, like
Well, even though they say it's uncensored.
The law's after you. Yahoo! They are some nasty pieces of work. They are some badass mothers. They are some badass mother***ers. I am honored.
Yeah, I mean the film is uncensored because it's got the Chun-Li shower scene and all the other kind of bits
Right.
that got cut out of the film in some cuts.
Or like
on
the blood and
on the
stuff.
anniversary edition of one of the games, I think Street Fighter Anniversary Edition pack, you can unlock it as a secret bonus, but it's a heavily edited PG-13 version of the film.
Well, you can unlock the whole film.
Yeah, so you unlock the film, but it's like it's you either unlock it or you get it, but it's a cut version of it.
Right.
But you see, the one that we've got right in front of us, we've got two sitting in front of us. We've got the original DVD that was released by MANGA, and then we've got the K's one. And the K's one, they both have the same BFFC rating, you know, and still published by MANGA, but this K's company, you know, remastered this one, and this one is the one that has the redacted, censored version of the soundtrack, and it just sounds weird. I found that there's another company called Discotech or something that have made another version, so I need to upgrade it, you know. So that one apparently has a better transfer and the better version of the dialogue, which has all that uncensored
because
swearing
like considering the age of the film, it's obviously been processed at 4K at some point.
Yeah.
So somebody has to have done a 4K remaster of such an old anime, because like a lot of the old animes are getting remastered into 4K because we've come to the standard now in this day and age of having 4K Blu-rays of older films and stuff like that, isn't it?
Yeah. It's kind of the same thing, and I'll touch on Fist of the North Star and stuff and all the adaptations of Hokuto no Ken, but Hokuto no Ken has a version of the manga, like an anime version that is a shorter, abridged version of
heavily
it,
abridged.
where he goes from like fighting all the desert dudes in Harlem to going straight to Rao.
Yeah,
you know, so
he goes straight from beating the shit out of Jaggy, his head blowing up, skipping a few episodes, going straight to
it's like
Shin, and then skipping Shin straight to Rao. And then all the way up to the end of Rao's story.
Does he fight Heart, Jaggy, and then Rao? And Ray's in it too?
Yeah,
Ray looks slightly different. His design is slightly different.
And then after Ray, you know, demises, and then he avenges Ray, he gets to Rao, and I think it ends on the bit when he fights Rao, I think.
Okay, I can't even remember it.
That's all I remember off the top of my head.
Slightly different. And the animation slightly improved, but also downimproved, because the original one had a kind of like a rougher 70s kind of looking animation.
Well,
and
yeah,
then went into the 90s.
that's older than this film, so it has the original style of manga animation. The
Because
cell shaded, the cells are different.
It feels like the team that did Fist of the North Star 2, you know, when he fights Falco and you know, Cal and all the other people, and he goes to Ashura, you know, the other area. That's the same team that made this anime to kind of modernize it, because it just looks slightly different. Because the original intro, you know, you in shock and all that kind of stuff, you know, like the original theme, that feels very 70s, because he's got like proper sideburn chops and looks, you know, kind of classic looking. I just love it.
It's so good.
I've always been a fan of
so good. So good.
Yeah, just I love all these kind of shows. It's really cool. E Honda's house is nice as well, but it's in the middle of nowhere. I don't know how he gets like plumbing and other stuff. Does he just take a shit in a bucket?
Let's talk about that funny India scene, because that's quite pivotal.
India, the Calcutta kind of Indian scene where he kills Gandhi.
Obviously, people know that before you get into that India scene, there's like Akuma sitting on near the wall.
That's a cameo,
but that's like a funny little cameo.
It's just a cameo. He's not even in the film.
Yeah,
I don't know
he's not in the film predominantly. Yeah. He's in the other films. I think he's in
the Alpha movie.
He's in the Alpha movie, and then he's in another anime movie.
There's two.
The Generations one.
There's like two or three. There's two or three animes that came out that I don't really like. I didn't like the animation style of Street Fighter Alpha the movie.
Yeah.
I didn't like Street Fighter Alpha Generations or whatever it was called.
One or the other came out at the same time as that Fatal Fury anime. And I can't remember which one it was.
There was a Fatal Fury, and there was a Tekken anime made by the similar team. Tekken anime was a flop.
Yeah.
I don't really like that too much. There were a lot of kind of films that tried to do the same thing. So they
tried to profit on the games.
So it just Mark of the Grey Wolves or something like that. There was two Fatal Fury movies. But I need to rewatch them to see what they're about. But it's just interesting stuff.
It was an interesting time for
T.H.O.R is massive in this, man.
T.H.O.R is the right size.
Yeah, his feet is huge.
Like T.H.O.R when he has that little voyeuristic harbor fight with Ken in the hangar.
Is that in Seattle?
Or in a warehouse in Seattle or somewhere. Yeah, because that's after that he gets in his Porsche and leaves, isn't it?
Yeah.
So he has that fight with T.H.O.R and he kind of beats him up, and then he's like, have you ever heard, T.H.O.R tells him, like, have you ever heard of a fighter with such great power? And he doesn't realize that he's talking about Ryu because he might have fought Ryu before.
He's talking about...
Or he's talking about someone...
He says something to Ken, but Ken says to him, you know, like, you're comparing me to the vagabond that fell off the earth, you know, and then he gets mad at him.
Yeah.
Like T.H.O.R tries to whoop him, but Ken's Ken makes him really beats him up, and then he struggles a bit to kind of get back up after kicking him. Yeah. He's about to do a Hadouken, but he doesn't decide to do it. But that's when the robots clock that he's got the same fighting style.
Yeah. So that's when they start to target him. They start to target him. And narrow down fighters who can emulate Ryu's fighting style. Then he gets in his Porsche and then he leaves. And then I think that's when the India scene happens, isn't it?
Something like that. But I do remember he gets raided by Bison later when he's driving back, isn't it?
No, but that's after.
Because of that.
I'm talking about the India scene.
Because it's still at night. But India's quite a good scene because there's a bit where the Shadaloo heavies, they have that weird looking kind of dude. I don't know, he's some random guy.
Yeah, he's like a random thug.
Who's
but
been,
I always thought he looked too similar to Guile with his like kind of haircut
like
and his
discount
boots and cargo pants and his vest.
He has a scar
and he had
across
a funny
his
scar across his nose, and he's just like.
But he kind of karate chops the hell out of that Gandhi lookalike guy. So he kills Gandhi.
Yeah,
and
it was like an implied terrorist.
There's
attack.
that really nice girl that like there's that cute girl. She's running with her milk and she trips. And then Ryu gives her some money because he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, you've bumped into me."
And then all your milk.
Yeah, and then he gives the lady a respectful nod and carries on. But then that same girl's bringing change back for him, but she gets hit by something. I think she gets hit by the guy. The guy bumps into her, knocks her out, and then because
the guy is like ruthless, isn't it? He doesn't care about
and these guys have semi-auto guns, so they fire their semi-auto guns and they shoot him. No, I mean they shoot him in the leg, and he's trying to crawl, like sort of limp to the car.
The police guards shoot the terrorist guy in the leg who's done the assassination,
and he's expendable.
And he's like, "Help me!" You know, and they're like, "Nah, sod it."
They just Uzi the shit out of him.
They brap him. They brap him. From the windows of the car, that kind of black Mercedes,
and that's when Ryu just starts running, and then he
just
does the most boss bit of that kick he gives, man. That front kick is so powerful.
About how kinetic the connection,
man. The way you feel that hit, man. You actually feel like that guy took it right upside the face,
and that's what I love about animation. Like that. No matter how hard in live action you can get a stuntman to do almost realistic hits or play punch or play kick or do camera angles to fake a kick or fake a punch, you cannot compete with animation in terms of kinetic contact. The contact will always be better in anime.
I don't know the way they do it. They do it in Guyver so well too. When the Zoanoids try to fight Guyver, and Guyver rips their eyes out and all them bits and stuff. It's graphic, but there's a tangibility. They make it feel so real,
so realistic. And then there's a really funny scene after they kind of escape. So he beats the shit out of a couple of those goons. Then one guy's still alive with the broken nose. He drives away.
Before that attack, Dalsim fights E Honda. They have
a quite a funny fight,
because he dislocates all of his bones and then resets them off to get out of.
But that's a better representation, I thought, of Dalsim's powers.
Yeah, and Dalsim senses
in Street Fighter 2, I never understood how is he stretching his limbs when we were younger. How can he do all these stretchy things and start spinning with his head, start levitating and breathe out fire? We weren't that knowledgeable about yoga techniques or breathing fire or these kind of magicians who do these kind of things.
They don't show
street art.
They don't show his abilities too much.
Yeah.
He doesn't do too
But he does that weird thing where he's like waving his hands and his eyes glow. And then E Honda can't get up.
Yeah, he was about to do something.
He's like stuck to the ground.
Amazing way, because he does. There is a shot, that's very Street Fighter where he spins. He does his hand.
Yeah, he does the punches. Yeah,
and E Honda does his spin.
His headbutt. His headbutt.
To get him and stuff and all. There's a few things that they do where they fight, and.
But it's a bit more comical, like their fight is a bit more funnier.
Yeah, it's really good. I always thought that they missed an opportunity to have a lot of comical moments with like Dan and E Honda and people. If you could just make it into, if you could just let it breathe a little bit more as a series, You know, if you made an animated series of Street Fighter, it would work really well. You know, like with those. You know, like how you have digital Sonic, digital Mario. If you just kept it in a bit of a digital world with like a really nice effect.
We forgot about that scene with Zangief and Blanca. That's quite good too.
That's a good bit too, where they go to that Las Vegas-y party.
It's like a Las Vegas show arena or something, and Balrog's like a bouncer, and he's talking to someone on the phone.
He's more of a kind of like the host, kind of hosting the party kind of thing. It's like his thing. He's like, so that bit, you know, like the cage fighting with the Playboy bunny looking thing with all the rich bigwigs and stuff.
Yeah.
That's quite cool, man. Blanca's very beastly in that.
Yeah. He's sick
like,
in that.
And he does all of his wicked spinning attacks, and he knocks Zangief out, and then he bites into Zangief.
He's got a bit more of a muddy kind of palette. Like his green is more darker. His orange hair isn't like super bright.
He's a little bit more sort of scary, deadly than he is in later.
Yeah, in later games they became a bit more brighter and more.
A little bit more crazy, a little bit more comical. Maybe because he met his mum now, so he's more humor, like more humor in his life and love.
Yeah.
But he's a little bit different in the games going forward. He's never really been one of my favourite characters. I've never really mastered him, you know? He was quite an easy character. People could just mash the attack button and he'd just do the electrocution.
Yeah.
The end fight's really cool too.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Let's talk about the Ryu and Fei Long scene. That's really nice.
A very, very, very wicked scene. Very well choreographed. And the way Fei Long comes...
Not bad, or was it just luck? Let's see how well you do against a fighter like me.
Like breaks his nose. And
because the nice thing about Ryu is that he keeps going from place to place, just having fights with random people. So he gets.
And he's not wearing his mitts in that.
Yeah,
fight.
he's got no mitts.
He's
barefoot.
Yeah,
he's just got his gi on and he's got his headband on.
Yeah,
that's about it.
That's all he does. He lives a very.
He doesn't have the kind of pads on his.
Yeah, he doesn't have his.
He doesn't have the pads on his fists and stuff and his mitts. Yeah. Ken has it. I think Ken has it later on when he's like the bad Ken.
Yeah, Ken's got his full gi.
So they must have gotten Ken's outfit, given it to him, then turned him into the evil Ken.
Yeah, no, because it was in his car.
Or the brainwashed Ken, should I say?
When they took it with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they kidnapped him.
But I love the scene, like how they're saying, "Oh, where is this Fei Long guy? Where is he gone?" You know, and
he's an asshole.
The director's having a fit about Fei Long doing a runner. But Fei Long's just gone to see the fights in the illegal, the underground fights thing, fight scene, and then Ryu has that really nice scene with the other guy, but he just like brutalizes that first guy, isn't it? And everybody's like, huh? You know,
just beats that dude up, man, to hell. There's also a nice scene where Guile and Chun-Li go to see DJ.
Oh yeah,
DJ's a bouncer at a club, but he beats the shit out of those guys who are like causing a scene.
Oh, that's a nice scene.
And
I like that.
He whoops those two guys, and then he delivers a kick, and God catches it without any kind of hesitation. He goes, "Nice kick, I'm Captain Guile."
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, the guy who does Guile's voice talent is spot on as Guile. He's so cool.
It's just really cool, man. I love it a lot.
And they show DJ in the right light. Like, you know, he likes his music, he can do the kicks, he can do the style. And he's got the classic orange, you know, his orange
There's a bit in the film where, you know, Ryu and Ken have a really nice flashback fight. You know, and this is when they were younger. That inspired Street Fighter Alpha.
Cool.
Because Ryu doesn't have his headband, and then it said that the red headband came from Ken. Came from Ken, and there was a manga that you could buy that was made in the same animation style as Street Fighter animated movie, but they defeat Bison differently. They don't do a double Hadouken; they do a double Shuriken, and it looked really strange. They made it a 2-page spread, and they Shuriken him into the jet. And I remember that. It was made by MANGA, the same company, published by them. It was like a tie-in.
So sometimes that used to happen. Sometimes there used to be variations or movie adaptation comics of a feature film.
Yeah, it just reminded me of Star Wars Tales, like that one where Luke never made it and he died on Bespin.
Yeah.
And then Leia became a Jedi early, and the other Return of the Jedi where he redeems Vader. And I would love to do that. I would love to actually, if I could one day, just kind of retcon it, like redo them or something. Yeah, it'd be quite amazing.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. I wonder if they could actually consider rebooting Star Wars and redoing Phantom Menace and all those
possibly
films, because the prequel trilogy needs a little bit of a redo. Yeah, but Street Fighter.
Let's talk about that classic Ken scene with the Porsche, because
I'll never forget that, man. With Alice in Chains is like, it's just so cool, man.
I think that was just definitely the first taste of proper 90s grunge rock and metal rock that we were exposed to at that young age, of that kind of fantastic music, man. Because it was just
really inspiring stuff.
Really, yeah, it was really good, because not only that is Ken driving a really nice Porsche, like old school Porsche 911 Turbo. He's got his lady Eliza in the car, and they're just having a little chit chat.
Eliza having
and he's busting out the tunes and stuff, and he's talking to her about that, and it's really funny what they're talking about. I think she's talking to him about marriage or something.
Yeah, she wants him to get married, and he's sort of like, his problem is that he's like getting bored of the people he's fighting.
Yeah.
He keeps winning against what he considers to be opponents below his level.
Yeah.
And he just wants to fight Ryu again. He wants to, see if he can be it.
And be it, best him. So after he drops Eliza off, I think that's when he gets ambushed by Bison, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. He drops Eliza off, and then he'll get caught up with that bit with T.H.O.R, and then when he gets after that on his way back from fighting T.H.O.R, that's where they get him. They hypnotize him too with that weird kind of psychedelic machine. Like there's two times that they've tried to do that. They did that with Blanca and D'Souza's film.
Yeah,
he was getting hypnotized, brainwashed by that weird machine.
Yeah,
and same thing happened to Ken, where they broke his mind. Where they tried to break his mind.
Yeah, because it has a really funny effect where it's like warped, and it's like the glass cracks, and he's like and he's like kind of looking at pictures of Ryu, and they're like brainwashing him. And it's a kind of funny old school kind of 90s effect.
Psychological kind of.
And then there's also the scene where they're trying to grill Cammy, or they're trying to cross-examine Cammy.
That was very early when they had
she's not giving up any answers.
The Interpol headquarters.
But I'm like, that bit's a bit stupid, because there's a guy with half a face, wearing a hoodie. Wouldn't anybody be suspicious about this dude walking around
or something like that? No one noticed.
Yeah, it's like a really odd scene. Like he's walking around the ward where Cammy's being held, and she's being interrogated by Chun-Li, and Cammy's not giving up anything because her programming has taught her to not say anything.
It's all shut down now. And she can't remember.
She acts amnesic.
She basically has amnesia. That's the problem.
Yeah.
After they caught her, she can't remember what she was doing.
Yeah. So it's interesting how extreme in this film, how they tell how Bison's techniques and his evil professors go to hide their tracks, which is really interesting. But yeah, it's nice to see that kind of like style. It's good storytelling by the director.
I do like the structure of the fight, because he fights Evil Ken first. Evil Ken's quite tough, and then after he refuses to initially fight Ken doesn't. He just takes the beating, and then Ken remembers. The pain point where he accidentally hurt Ryu and their brotherhood. So then
from the blood.
So then after Guile gets taken out by Bison and he spares Guile, he gets mad at Ken, and then he does some kind of like weird psycho kind of like Jedi Sith thing on some kind of energy blast on his head, and then he does an epic toss
fight.
away.
Yeah.
He just grabs him on the shoulder and he tosses Ken away, and Ken goes flying. And then Ryu tries to go after Ken, and then Bison gets in his way, and then they have a fight. And then Ken can't walk, and then he meditates and somehow fixes himself. He's able to walk.
I find
again.
that funny too.
Yeah.
That he can just fix himself by meditating.
I don't
and
know.
doing
His
a
legs
pose.
are kind of busted up, but then he comes back and they have a wicked fight. So another highlight, is the Chun-Li versus Vega fight. It's so well choreographed. The way he kind of like home raids her, and she feels his ninja movements and senses him. And
there's obviously a long build up because like Guile is trying to get in touch with Chun-Li, but she's
with the Shelby.
Yeah,
Mustang.
he has a
That's
Shelby
the first time I
Mustang,
loved
which
that.
is really nice.
That's another time I saw
and
the
it's
Shelby
nice
Mustang.
because the animation is good.
So
the way they
good,
draw the
man.
gear
The
stick,
gearing,
and the way he's driving the car,
So
the
wicked.
mechanics and shit, all that looks really good.
Hang on, kid, I'm on my way.
And he's like, oh Chun-Li, pick up the phone. And he's like, he's rushing, like weaving in and out of traffic to get to Chun-Li, and then the scene plays out nicely because she's like resting, she can't answer the phone, and that's the only way to communicate back in the day.
She was listening to some really cool
and she's listening to some music and just chilling out.
The music was really wicked, and then he just raided her after she was taking a shower and just getting ready to like wind the day down. There was the
actual attack is sick that he does because he's somehow hiding in her rafters or on the ceiling, and you can just see like a glint of his claws, and then that triggers Chun-Li, and she's like, oh shit, Vega or something. She says something,
oh god, Vega,
and he's like, ooh, I'm gonna get you.
But she gets slashed right across the breast, like, just above her breast at one point, and then she's like, help. That's when he hears like, hang on kid, I'm on my way. And then she fights him, and then I love the bit where he's like, oh, I like to skin all the rabbits.
He's quite sadistic
sounding and pervy, and and then she throws the entire sofa at him, which is a good bit.
I find that
she lifts the couch up and throws it. She's so pissed.
And
he just underestimated how good
I guess
she is.
She's like super high on adrenaline, so she's like,
and she does a proper spinning bird kick on him and whoops him, and then she steps all over his face.
the way she does the spinning bird kick is quite good in this film.
Yeah,
because she's using her hands to spin around and hit him. In the game, she magically can levitate out of nowhere and spin around doing the bird kick.
Yeah.
So in this, I like the way they show her moves. She does the 100 leg kicks, and she does the spinning bird kick. She doesn't do her Kokorkin fireball. She doesn't have that because she got that after.
Kokorkin she had. I can't. Now this is the bit that I have a bit of a issue with. I can never remember if she had Kokorkin in Street Fighter, Super Street Fighter. They added it, or she always had it, but it was a difficult move to make. But in Street Fighter Alpha, she had the Kokorkin. And the other thing is that in this year, she really whoops the shit out of him. He gets her a good number of times. Like there's a bit where she's whooping him in the rafters, and he flips her around to cut her. Like she comes down on him, and then he uses
down on her, and she uses her feet to...
No, he pushes her up, and then she loses her balance. Yeah. He's about to slash her and kill her, but she climbs across the rafters, jumps off the wall, hits him, and then she's trying to get to him, and he's knocked out. But she's losing her energy, so she stumbles for a second, and she sees the blood.
Weak.
But she gets really angry, and that's when she whoops him. She hits him with lightning kicks so much, she whoops him. He goes flying out, down, and out the window.
The way they do that flash kicking, and the way they've animated it super fast, and they sped up the footage.
So wicked.
It looks so sweet.
Yeah.
And then she drop kicks him through the wall.
She double foots him.
Drop kicks him. She literally drop kicks him like a wrestling drop kick,
man.
And then he goes flying through her brick wall and then out into the lower street from our apartment building.
She killed him because he killed her dad.
So he does. I assume he dies, right?
Yeah.
Vega.
It's assumed
Vega dies.
Yeah, she killed him.
Yeah.
She killed him.
And then Guile eventually gets up. He kicks her door down and
she's all
saves
bleeding
Chun-Li,
and hurt, and he's like,
he just takes her to the hospital.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like because she's in heavy surgery or whatever to try and help her with the blood loss and all that kind of stuff. But she recovers.
She recovers, yeah. And then Guile, is it Guile who goes to see, he goes with E Honda, I think it is. I can't remember, because like they go to. You said they go to E Honda's house or something.
Ryu is staying at E Honda's house, practicing on E Honda's training boards, and then they're about to eat when Ken comes.
But does Ken come first or does Guile come first?
No, Guile comes first, with his helicopter to say to them that you're under attack, and then the jet comes and he goes, "Whoa, a lot of visitors today."
Oh yeah, I love that bit. Yeah,
and then Balrog and him have a fight. He goes, "I'm the welcome wagon. It's nice to meet you, friend."
Yeah.
And then they have a fight, and he has like cross eyes. Not cross eyes, he has like a lazy eye.
Yeah, to me it implied like Balrog's got a lazy eye due to his boxing or something.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And which is a nice touch because like obviously that can happen with boxers.
But E Honda does defeat Balrog, but I can't remember how he does it. You see it off screen.
Yeah, you don't see their fight fully. You just see little snippets of their fight.
Yeah.
And then it cuts back to the whole Ryu
because at the end,
fighting.
E Honda carries Guile and Balrog, having defeated Balrog.
Yeah.
Comes to see them.
Yeah.
After they Hadouken the hell, they do basically a double Hadouken that becomes one massive Hadouken, and it says Bison in that energy into his jet. What
I love about that fight is that the fight that Ryu and Ken have is really intense. But as soon as they, like you mentioned before, Ken does his chi and he regains his energy and he becomes, like the bit is great. It was always a buzzy moment when Ken's like coming down to punch Bison and Bison's doing that double look.
His shadow,
it's like that classic technique. It was like, huh?
I'll dodge you for my shadow
speed. And then he punches the ground Ken and then Ryu's not sure, is that normal Ken? Or is it still the brainwashed evil Ken? And he's like, like taking out the trash. He says that line.
Yeah.
And then Ryu's like, yeah.
And he's like, I'll fight.
And then
I'll fight you on your own level. Come on.
Next boss mode.
There's a tracking error on our VHS on that one.
I always will remember
the ribbon used to slip, and it used to go, and he's like, I'll fight you on your own level. When it took us so long to reprogram our brains to watch that.
Remember before he does that wicked sonic boom, he says that line that always gets cut.
Yeah.
That we always love and remember.
Because he goes, Bison, I'll rip your effing heart out, you filthy bastard, in the original version.
That's the original
line. In the PG-13 one, he goes, Bison, I'll rip your heart out, you
something.
You
yeah, it's something lighter.
You bumhead. It's like something light. But,
But I love Bison's move in that he does the leg sweep. He leg sweeps both of them.
He does, yeah.
And they go flying,
and then
Ryu doesn't roll. He recovers and attacks.
He does this wicked
Bison with a couple
series
of punches
hits,
and kicks,
and this power hit.
And it's just so well choreographed, that scene.
Yeah.
Like somebody really storyboarded it so nicely. Thought about the camera angles, the kinetic action. The way they move, the way they flow. Bison's more harder, more kind of blunt fighter, whereas Ken and Ryu know their technique.
But he also has levels of grace. He has power.
Yeah, like
power, but he's also
when he does
fighter.
that hip toss.
Yeah.
And then he lands on his feet.
Yeah.
Do you remember when he lands on his feet and they're like, "Oh shit, he can levitate or something."
He goes.
They kind of freak out. And my psycho power. And
he doesn't do headbutt or fist of doom though in there.
Nah.
But he does this thing where he grabs Ken by the head, and he goes up and he slams him right in the ground.
It looks to me like a choke slam.
Yeah, but it's like a face slam.
A face slam
from the head. He does some sick stuff, man. He does some sick stuff.
Yeah. But then it all ends up in an epic showdown, epic finale where they both concentrate their powers and they make this massive Hadouken, both of them. And then is Bison running towards him or something? What's he doing, Bison?
He's angry. He does something. He gets taken out the same way Sagat got taken out, basically.
Yeah.
The other thing that's very interesting is you never see Sagat after that.
No, Sagat's only in
a couple of scenes.
A couple of more scenes, and then he just doesn't really have much fight.
And it's a shame that he didn't fight and then maybe change and join against Bison or something. Like he gets a bit of a change of heart later in the.
He does, yeah. So then Bison gets hit, and then he goes flying into the abyss, And then I'm assuming, like you said, his body gets destroyed.
When he gets hit by the Hadouken goes into his jet, and his jet blows up.
Oh yeah, his jet blows up. Yeah. That's sick.
So that's the bit I remember. Then Ken and Ryu part ways, and everyone kind of has their happy endings, and then a truck comes with Bison in it, which is quite a funny.
It's funny. So after Guile goes to see Chun-Li, she's recovering.
Yeah.
E Honda does that thing that you said where he picks him up and takes him away. Ryu's walking down the street. The end is the funniest bit of the film. Because it's like, what's going on? It's like just like you thought there's like a funny coda. And Ryu's just walking down the street and he's just like, yeah, bye everyone, I'm carrying on my World Warrior pilgrimage. And then he's walking down the street and then you see like a transition where he's like 10 miles down the
credits
road.
are rolling, and
then there's a truck coming in the background, but you don't see it straight away. And then you hear the horn of the truck. It's a bit like Revenge.
I'm gonna run you down.
And he's like, what? Again, and Ryu looks at him and he's like, and he's like laughing. It's a freeze frame. It's just a big smiley face of Bison. And he's like, oh shit. And then it just ends on Ryu jumping towards the truck. And I'm assuming he's going to attack the truck.
That's when Blind plays, like, oh, you
ready? And then credits roll, credits roll.
Man, it was so cool.
So good.
There's a post-credits message as well that is on the manga hyping up the movie.
Oh, right.
Like saying, oh, Street Fighter, the movie's coming. The live
action film.
So, so that's...
So that means that
that'll be in the next pod.
Definitely the live action film came after this.
Yeah, because it was a 96 movie or something like that, if I remember correctly.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's kind of wrap up and say, what would you give it Shields out of?
5. It will always be one of my 10th pole films. You know, go-to movies. I will watch this film forever and just... It goes in my collection. Yeah, it's one of my top films.
I would give it... I think I would be really biased too and give it a 5 because A, it gave us a lot of inspiration for storytelling when we first saw this film, and B, we just love all the visuals, we love the soundtrack, we love the narrative of the film. It is the closest, in my opinion, to a true video game adaptation film.
There hasn't been any kind of Street Fighter that has really done it. There've been a lot of terrible films after that.
Stinkers.
So
many stinkers.
So even though Street Fighter, we'll talk about it in the next pod, but the D'Souza one is just a weird Street Fighter film. It's just a good Van Damme film. Yeah, like a nice kind of 90s kind of action movie.
I would give it a 5 Shields. That's what I was going to say.
I was going to say
I'll give it a 5 Shields as well because I love this film.
I mean, Street Fighter 2, the animated movie, is just a classic, man. It should be seen by any fan of the video game franchise. It's an exciting, action-packed movie, and it's a faithful adaptation of the game. Yeah. In my opinion, especially of that Street Fighter 2 era. There have been a couple of OVAs and other stuff that touched on 4 and sort of continued the lore of the games, but this is its own separate continuity. Implied to be during Street Fighter 2. I would say
if anybody loves Street Fighter, definitely check it out way before Street Fighter 6 comes out because it's a great history lesson into the world of Street Fighter.
We're just doing all the Street Fighter stuff because of the imminent upcoming release of Street Fighter 6, so it's making us feel nostalgic. I posted a couple of videos of me schooling Sodom and a couple of things online because I've just been playing Alpha again quite a lot, practicing and sparring, so it's really fun time. But listen, thanks for listening to this podcast. We've been Ray and Z, the R.E.P Knights, and like, subscribe, sub our show, and if you're a fan of this game, have fun and get new challenges and beat the high scores and enjoy Street Fighter like we do, and we'll see you in the next House of R.E.P.